Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, as you know, and I'm joined today by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. Good morning, Sean. Another happy Monday.
Aye, it is. It's another happy Monday. It looked as if it might have been not quite as happy a Monday for 45 minutes, but then it ended up brilliant, didn't it?
We were looking as if we were going to fade to grey again, Sean, for more or less the first half in that game. But hey, we yes, as you say, they pulled it out of the fire, and another 5-1 victory over 10 man St Mirren, which we'll talk about in due course. But first things first, as I direct you every day, guys, strap line running along the bottom. Subscribe to the Celtic Way, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. It will cost you £2 for 2 months for unlimited access to everything that's written on the website. Something there for everybody, and you can subscribe to the Celtic Way website and support top quality football journalism covering the club you love. Costs you £2 for 2 months, and you just all for a click of a button. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And as we always do, we say thank you to our sponsor. The Celtic Way Morning Briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group, and SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Now, Sean, another weekend ticking down to the end of the season. Celtic went a goal down. Your favourite man, Greg Taylor, penalised for a handball, but they come back and dredge it out the fire. First goal for Alistair Johnston, Jota getting them back in the game. Abada, wonderful performance, second half from Abada, a goal and an assist. And Oh Hyung-gu scoring a penalty as well, only just. The goalkeeper seemed to go under his body. But yeah, they responded well, Sean, to adversity. First and foremost, the result keeps them 9 points clear, extends the goal difference as well. So can't ask for more than that.
No, you can't. I mean, what can you say about the result, though, apart from, without using that game of two halves cliche, anyway? To be honest, Tony, going in 1 down at the break, right, was maybe a bit unlucky, I think, because not because it was a penalty or not a penalty. We'll come to the VAR decisions in a minute, but just because Celtic still created like 7 or 8 chances in the first half. I think Jota's first one around the half-hour mark was the best, but regardless, they still created about 7 chances. The second half was just a great response to a rare situation where they found themselves behind at the break. I felt as though they scored pretty much straight away, but it was actually at the 56th minute. So it was 11 minutes before they scored. I felt as if it was virtually the first attack. I don't know why. That's just the way I perceived it. But after that, I mean, or including that, 4 goals in 16 minutes just totally erased any doubt, whether it was doubt over the grey strip, whether it was doubt or the fact that it was Paisley or anything else.
Yes, and correct. People were reading too much into the grey strip again, weren't they? I mean, Hatate scalps the bar. There's a fine flowing move that ended up with the keeper making a save from Jota, which would have been an excellent football goal. Jota had another one that the keeper saved as well. Didn't know too much about it at the near post. So as you Celtic were creating chances. And the result I don't think flatters Celtic because they came out the second half all guns blazing, and Abada made a huge difference, and we'll come to that. But another 5-1 victory over St Mirren, Sean, and I think most people are saying that they were kind of unlucky to be on the receiving end again, but I'm not so sure.
I'm not so sure either, Tony, to be honest with you. I mean, I've got a couple of, you've seen it before because I showed you. I've got the race chart that I've brought up a few times, but I'll put it up and we'll discuss it, right? Because I agree with you. I think that's maybe, I don't know if they were unlucky to be on the end of that. As I said before, when the last time I've put it up, this is just kind of a visual representation of the chances that each team created and when across the span of the game. Now, to me, right, there was only ever one team in it in terms of chances created, and that's not just because of the sending off in the first half. You just look at the chances created or lack thereof, because when you see that chart, you don't need to be a statistician. You don't need to, and you don't even need to enjoy the data stuff to see that there's only one team creating chances in that game. But even for me, who goes through these data roundups virtually every home game, every league game, I've never really seen this type of race chart before, because it's the penalty and only the penalty.
Yeah, the
For St
penalty,
Mirren. It's one shot, no other attempts created at all. Now, obviously, if you look at it, Celtic flatlined for the first 20 minutes, meaning they found it difficult, couldn't create a chance, really, in the opening 20 minutes. But thereafter, they created fairly steadily the rest of the game, and particularly that second half, you can see it going up and up and up and up and up. And I know Celtic got a penalty of their own, but just to tell you, like, the final totals, I think the Celtic one's obscured there with the brand. I'll just take that away. 2.78 to 0.78. Now, a penalty is 0.78. So, St Mirren created literally nothing beyond winning that penalty. And Celtic, even if you take away their penalty, still created enough to score at least twice. So to me, I agree with you. I think it is a bit much to say they were unlucky to be on the end of a
narrative, isn't it? Let's be honest. Yeah. So yeah, I was just throwing that out there because people were saying that, but
I must admit, Tony, see what you said there about O's penalty. I actually did think Trevor Carson could have done better at that. I think
but
he struck it powerfully, but given it back the right way and where the ball went, I thought, I got that there.
It went in, they all count, and that's all that matters when you score a penalty. I see a few commenters saying that, and I agree with that. I was just saying that I wasn't too convinced with Beach Boy saying the penalty in a good penalty. Wasn't too convinced with the actual execution of it, but he scored. It went in, so that's fine. That's all you can ask for a player if but I think when Trevor Carson looks back, he'll probably think he could have, probably should have saved it. Yeah, and somebody mentioned his run up as well. I was a bit those kind of run ups perplex me.
It wasn't quite Paul Pogba, but it was.
Those run ups perplex me as a footballer's about to hit a penalty kick. I'm not a lover of it, so maybe that was clouding my judgment. But
on the goals, Tony, I know you were at the game. I messaged you during the game saying I can't believe how well Jota done for that. How aware he was for the equaliser.
Excellent, a lovely wee stab home, just to be aware and to put it right into the corner. Because if he doesn't put it there, the defender will clear that. But it's because it just kind of rolled along the line and into the corner, so he couldn't get it. So I was, and a lot of people were saying, and I could read comments during the game as well on Twitter and stuff, that it was a toss-up between Jota or Maeda to come off at half-time, possibly. And a lot of people were saying, bring on Haksabanovic, that kind of stuff. But I actually thought Jota was doing okay and was kept on for that very reason, that, you have to keep on a player that can supply a moment of magic. And it's a moment of awareness more than anything else that's got the equaliser. And that's the most important goal for Celtic in the game. Once I turned to whoever was sitting beside me and said, once Celtic get one, they will score 3 or 4, was what I said. But it's getting that initial one, and the longer it went on without getting the one, then you could see it lightning striking twice in Paisley, the same kind of game, because I think the last time you just kept waiting on Celtic to come into the game, and they didn't. This time they were in the game. As you say, you felt it was right after the break, but it still was 56 minutes. But that's the most important goal of the game for Celtic, the one that draws them level, because they can relax and then go on and do their stuff after that.
Definitely, Andrew Galea saying we were always in control. 420 somewhere saying Sean's off on one, chart up right away. Pete McGee, who built those stairs, Sean, disgraceful job. And Andrew Galea, Sean loves a graph. I think it just, I don't always put those up, but that one struck me, one, because St Mirren only had that one shot, which penalty, but two, because I'd seen a fair few comments like what you mentioned, Tony, about them being unlucky. Now, all right, maybe a 4-goal margin of victory, you could argue the toss about that one, but there was only 1 team in it for me in terms of chances created. And the reason I put that up there is, again, I don't think it was the sending off per se that changed that, because they were already starting to create chances before he was sent off, albeit they hadn't scored, and obviously it does have an impact. But I still think that ultimately Celtic had started creating the chances that they needed before the sending off.
I think it was more the impact of Abada in the second half that rather than the sending off, as you say. Celtic had opportunities to score. The first half didn't take them, and they were well in the game. Now, looking at the Charles Dunn incident, it's a definite red card. You can argue the toss all day whether it's a penalty or not. My initial thought when I saw it in real time was that the foul was committed outside the box. I said that at the time. Saw it in the replay, and I know there's various stills where Kyogo's foot's in the game. I'm reading the word game there, on the line, isn't it? Now, I know you're going to flash up the IFAB rules in a second, Sean, but Kyogo was quick as lightning to get in. Charles Dunn shot with a pass back, he runs in, but I can understand why it wasn't given.
Yeah.
Because the foul for me took place outside the box, but if we're looking at this contact continuing, I've seen various stills where Kyogo's foot's planted on the line and it looks as if there's still contact. So if that's the case, fine, then it should be a penalty. But I'm still, as I say, there's still reasonable doubt in my mind as to whether it's a penalty or not. But what I will say is I'm puzzled as to why David Dickinson didn't go and review it on the monitor, Sean.
Yeah. Right?
He reviewed the Celtic one, didn't he? With a handball, which was about 3 minutes or 4 minutes later, something like that. Derek Crofts is a penalty all day, continues in the box, in my opinion. Yeah, and as I say, in my opinion, I thought the initial foul took place outside the box. Thought it was outside the box first time I saw it. Max Stark agrees with me. Now, Sean, you're going to flick up the IFAB rules here, aren't you?
I've not putting up the screenshot for this one. I'll put it up for the handball one, but I have looked at it obviously, and it says in the IFAB rules that if a defender starts holding an attacker outside the penalty area and it continues holding inside the penalty area, then it must be a penalty kick. Now that throws up the question, right? Where do you define as the start of the penalty area? Have you got to be over the line? Is it on the line? And on their field of play section, it just says the area bounded by the lines in the goal line is the penalty area. So, yeah, if he's still holding him when his foot is on that line, then he's inside as far as I can see, and it should have been a penalty. Now, there's a couple of comments saying that when they've paused it and stuff, they think he let go just before his foot hit the line, in which case it wouldn't be a penalty. So it really depends whether he was still touching him when his foot went on the line. But if he was, then it should have been a penalty. And I agree with you. I think a lot of people are saying that, like, why did he not check himself?
He's got to check that himself, Sean, because it's the biggest contentious decision, isn't it, of the day.
I mean, either way, we're all agreed it is a sending off because
it's a sending off.
Opportunity as soon as Kyogo ran through on that. So,
and the handball one he's checked, he's obviously got the wire, albeit late, to go and check it. Now people were saying that he had to wait till the ball went out of play to check it. I'm not so sure about that.
Is this for the Kyogo one?
No, for the
Greg Taylor one.
Greg Taylor one, yeah.
Aye, right, okay. That's where I've got the handball one to put up. All right, but I think it probably was a penalty, right? I think it was probably a penalty.
It was a definite penalty for me. I've got to be honest.
I certainly would be saying it if it was at the other end, Tony, put it that way.
Of course.
I think I get where can he move his arm question. I get that. But to me, it actually looks like he moves it forward as well, right? So what's up on the screen there, to me, it probably meets both deliberate and unnatural.
Yeah.
Given he wasn't booked, Tony, the assumption is the official didn't deem it deliberate, right? But I think you could say that he meets both of the criteria. But apart from anything else, and you kind of alluded to it, it was the length of time and maybe even multiple passages of play that elapsed between it happening and it being awarded. Now, there's plenty of hypotheticals doing the rounds on social media, group chats, all that kind of stuff. Like, what would have happened if Celtic scored before they stopped?
Yes, correct.
And I kind of wanted it to happen in real time just to see how they dealt with it, because I'm not sure how they would have dealt with it. Judging by what we've seen from the officials and from VAR this season, I don't know how they would have dealt with that.
Would you have to award the goal and then?
I've no idea. I don't know. I really don't know.
And give the penalty anyway, if that's what you thought.
I really don't know. And Alan Morrison, one of our columnists, he put up on his Twitter. He collects his own data, and he put up on Twitter. He's got a philosophical question: is he meant to count the things that happened in that 2.5 minutes between the offence and the actual awarding of the penalty, or is it just like they never happened, Schrodinger's stats, like that kind of thing? They're there but they're not there, like that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what they did there.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see that, wouldn't it? To be fair, I did see a lot of that, those hypotheticals doing the rounds last night as well. So I was kind of hoping something would have happened, Sean, to see how they would have dealt with it. But I don't know if we'll ever know, will we? Because I don't know if anyone will.
Not until it happens. I don't know, because they'll not. Obviously, we've gone through this before, but they don't come out and clear up decisions. Even my kind of thing about doing it NBA style, like a day after it, where a written thing rather than a referee talking to the media in front of a camera. But nah, they don't explain that kind of thing, and I don't imagine that it'll ever be explained unless it happens in a game, unless that happens again. But like whether it's Celtic or someone else, someone scores, but it was a penalty incident. So I don't know. To just put it frankly, I just don't know. I don't know what they would have done.
Now here's one from Dimitri Violentis. He says he's a ref, and it's not where the foot is, but where the last contact was made. And Charles Dunn's hand when he grabs.
Aye, right. I get that, but ultimately it is where his foot is, because if his foot isn't in the box, then it's not a question at all if he's in the box. Like so, it's a combination of both, but it has to be where his foot is as well. Otherwise, it's just outside the box. Then.
Correct. That's the point I was about to make. Yeah. So, and as I've seen various stills where his foot's on the line, as you say, depending on where where the lines of demarcation are. But I always thought that on the line was inside.
I mean, he's right. It is where it is ultimately where he lets go, but where he lets go by definition, it matters where Kyogo's foot is. Then, like if he's in the box or not. So I don't know. It was a hard one to actually discern, even when it was freeze framed, really. But it was definitely a sending off. Definitely a sending off.
But David Dickens should have gone to the monitor and made his own mind up about it, I think, or at least had a look at it and trusted his own judgment, and whatever his own judgment was, you would have abided by that, regardless if it had gone against you or not. But I'm puzzled as to why he didn't go over and have a look at it, because he looked at obviously the Greg Taylor one, didn't he? Because he was told to look at it. So was he told not to look at it? Or I'm puzzled. I really don't know what happened there. He has to have a look at that.
On the Greg Taylor one, Pete McGee says when St Mirren got their penalty, he just said no worries because there's still 85 minutes to put it right. If you are going to concede a penalty, you would rather it was as early as possible, I suppose.
Of course. Yeah, definitely. They did have 85 minutes or 84 minutes, whatever it was, to put it right, and they put it right. And other individual performances, and I said this to Postecoglou yesterday, it's not often you see a hat-trick of assists, Sean.
Well, he didn't really get a hat-trick of assists. He's not getting it. He's not getting
it.
So, to be honest, depends where you look. A couple of providers have only given him one. Aye, because the Johnston one's probably going to go down as an own goal. He doesn't get the assist. But I would say it's two, and then a key role in the third one. But he was pivotal, absolutely pivotal in that second half. First half, I thought he was quiet. Second half, I thought, I mean, we'll come on to the different individuals, but I thought he was arguably the best player after the break, and that's lofty praise considering how well I thought Abada played. As I say, either one or two assists, depending what stats provider you go with. Three if you're.
I'm giving him a hat trick of assists.
Yeah, but just in general, some really nice interplay. Particularly with Abada, I thought, and deliveries into the box where he obviously set up Johnston's goal. Even if he doesn't get the credit for it, it's still his delivery that causes it. And it was his ball through for the Jota goal as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. So. Now I watched with interest Sports Scene last night because obviously I only seen it in real time and then a couple of highlights from Sky when we were in the press room, but you're busy working at that point. And they tried to suggest that Alistair Johnston had handled the ball for his goal. But I mean, he's jumping up with a head that maybe brushes his arm and then hits Mark O'Hara on the way in, I believe. Because we were trying to take Alistair Johnston's goal off him as well. And again, Anne said, good luck with that. And Alistair Johnston himself said he's claiming it. But that one for me, I have no problems with that, Sean. It's a goal for me as far as I'm concerned.
I didn't watch Sports Scene, so I didn't see the suggestion of handball. But I didn't see it again. When I watched it again this morning, I didn't I didn't think I saw a handball, but I'll watch
Jack
it.
Ross and Chris Lumo were on the panel, and they said it should have been called back for a handball. But I mean, I jumped
up. But the thing is, they check a goal. You've got to check all goals, so they did check it.
So they were saying it should have been ruled out for a handball, and that. I'm not
given what we know about the handball rule, particularly this season, Tony, I suggested if it was a handball and it could have been ruled out, it might very well have been ruled out. But
given what the manager said, to be fair, about VAR
doesn't miss, especially with us. Yeah,
I think that's it all. That was a warning shot over the bow, if ever there was or not. But again, going back to the fact that it didn't derail Celtic in any shape or form. They got on with the job at hand. Any other players catch your eye, Sean?
Well, Abada, we've kind of touched on, but there's plenty of comments coming in for Abada. JP saying Abada was superb when he came on, loved his direct play and the energy that he brings to the team. Like a lot of people, Tony, you mentioned it earlier on. I thought it was maybe going to be Haksabanovic that came on. Yes. I was looking forward to maybe seeing him for a full 45. But using Abada instead was, inspired ultimately.
A great call from the manager, wasn't it?
I put on Twitter, on not on my own Twitter, but on the Celtic Way Twitter, that's it's 18 goal contributions this season from Liel Abada, but it's a goal or assist every 91.1 minutes domestically. So basically something every game, basically, is what that boils down to. And believe it or not, most have still come when he started, despite obviously the perception that he's a perennial sub now, he's more rotation piece, which is all true. But most of them has come when he started. But even despite that, he still chipped in with 4 goals and 2 assists as a sub, which I think is a really, really positive contribution. And I've been saying for months now that whether he's been coming on or whether he's starting, I think he's improved his dribbling. I think you can see that he's made a concerted effort to improve that part of his game. And I think you could see that again in the tight spaces around the St Mirren box yesterday, as well as his link-up play with Aaron Moy, who I've already mentioned is having a good game.
He mentioned that himself, didn't he? That Harry Kewell had been working on him with that and Gavin Strachan, the one-on-one stuff. And I thought his goal yesterday was, I don't know, it was like a 5-a-side goal to me, where you just get a pass and you just kind of feint and hammer it into the net, and he just, it was sort of like, as I say, a 5-a-side goal, a training goal that he knew exactly what he was doing when he picked it up and just rattled it, picked the spot in the bottom corner, and it was and it was a player who was thriving on it yesterday, was confident. First couple of things he did, I think he thought, right, I'm up for this here, I'm getting a bit of joy. You see linking well with Johnston, and he's got 27 goals now for Celtic, Sean, is that right? I
think so.
Am I right in 27 goals and 19?
Yeah, it will be, because he got 15 last season, didn't he?
So 15 last season, 27,
But his contribution, and I always like to look at it in terms of minutes played rather than just especially with people like Liel Abada and Georgios Giacomakis. Sometimes it didn't tell the full picture because you're getting substitutes minutes rather than starters minutes. So you might get half an hour where another player gets 65, and just naturally you've got more time to make an impact if you've got double the kind of game time. With Liel Abada, as I say, when he starts, he does some. Most of his contributions this season have still come in starts, but he has also been a valuable substitute, and he's contributed in both, and I think it's to his credit. I'm going to use this phrase to you, Tony, that was asked to Ange Postecoglou after the game. There has been no throwing the toys out the pram from Liel Abada.
Yes, and he kind of bristled at that and gave his kind of, what do you think would happen if players threw their toys out the pram and the boy got the mate at the end? Yes, so yeah. And I love that attitude from the manager, but I love the attitude from Abada as well. And he himself said he just wants to get better and contribute to the team. Again, I said the words could have been said by the manager himself, because they're on the same page, everybody, but they know fine well. The one thing they do know, whether they start or not, is that they will get game time, and it is up to those individual players to take that opportunity when it comes along. And Abada certainly didn't do himself any harm at all in terms of putting himself in contention for a starting place against Hearts on Wednesday.
Early spoiler alert, Tony. There's a few comments asking, do you think you're going to put him in your predicted 11 for Wednesday starting?
I probably will, yeah. I'm a yellow jersey kind of guy. I've said that before, haven't I? Just thought Maeda looked out of sorts yesterday. Maybe not his game. No space to run into. but then Abada came on, and Abada was more direct and attacked him more, even the lack of space, but he was ably supported by Alistair Johnston, and as you see, his link-up play with Moyne and players was great, and so they got joy from Abada, and Abada's still young. Got to remember that he's still only 21, isn't he?
Yep.
21, but he's still got a hell of a lot to offer, whether he's coming on making an impact like that. But there are times, and this is what annoys me about Abada, because when he does that and then he starts, he can sometimes turn in the Maida-like performance like yesterday, and it frustrates me about Abada, because I think we both know, I think everybody knows that he's got a lot more to give. And then there's other times, as you say, he's, when he starts, he does something. So I want that consistently.
Yeah, I mean that's always a trick for a winger, isn't it? That's always what they say, that the trick for a winger is getting the consistency.
Yeah.
But I think with Abada, and I've seen a few reports lately, because obviously the club, I think, has basically all but confirmed that they want to get him to sign fresh terms. But I've saw a few reports, I think, as far as I can see, given the wrong year of expiry. Seen a few saying it was 2025, but as far as I've got jotted down, it's 2026. There's no
3.5 years of his deal they were saying he had left, wasn't it?
Right, okay, aye. Right, all right, so that would be 2026. But I'm sure I saw a couple of outlets saying 2025 his deal expired, which isn't the case.
Which is wrong.
Yeah, it's 2026 as far as I've got jotted down, which means there's no rush.
No.
I think you obviously want to get players, maybe especially players that are 21 and probably going to be coveted, to new terms to increase the value, but there is no rush for that. I wouldn't be too panicked. Now, David Turnbull's deal, on the other hand, is soon going to have a year left, so I'd be kind of intrigued to know what happens with him, because I obviously said at the start of the season I thought he might get a new deal before Christmas, and that hasn't came to pass. So didn't see him yesterday though.
No, well, I saw him when they were celebrating the goals.
Yeah,
behind the goal, and he was smiling. But again, it's hard to argue. Where does Turnbull fit in when the form of the players at the minute? Even Matt O'Reilly came on and made a contribution as well, took his goal well. Nice setup, that kind of stuff. So again, 3 goals from the substitute, Sean.
Yeah,
coming on, big impact. We've spoken about O's run up for the penalty, and I don't know. Every time I see Haksabanovic, I just want to see more.
Same.
There's a definite player there, and I'm just delighted the fact that they've got so many options.
Kevin Ferrier saying Haksabanovic did well when he came on. Retro Celtic, good to see that name appearing again. I've not seen that for a wee while. He said that work's been getting on top of them. But Retro Celtic says, should I consider Haksabanovic in the 10? And he asked me my thoughts. Now, he's played him in as one of the midfield trio before, and I think he did well. The problem is, 2 problems, I suppose. You've got so many wingers that are up there in terms of first team, first 11 ready, and then in your midfield, you've got Cal McGregor, Reo Hatate, Matt O'Reilly, Aaron Moy, David Turnbull. Now you've got Tomoki Iwata, who's playing well when he comes on. So it's a good problem to have, and I wouldn't be averse to Haksabanovic in the 10 against certain teams maybe that are sitting extra deep. But even that, it's you're still saying that's one of Matt O'Reilly or Aaron Moy or Reo Hatate that's probably not going to start. So I don't know. It's a difficult one, but it's a good one to have.
Would you consider Haksabanovic and Abada alongside Kyogo on Wednesday?
I don't see why not. I don't think it will be. I think you probably will go with Maida again.
Yes.
Given the opposition. But we'll see. But the main point that I'm taking away for this is that none of them have ruled themselves out of a start by coming on and not playing well. They've come on and done what's been asked. And as Postecoglou kind of mentioned that after the game, in terms of it's not so much about the game time itself, it's that they make an impact when they get it. Liel Abada certainly made an impact, and I agree with some of the comments. I think Haksabanovic played well again when he came on. Yeah. Maybe not directly involved in goals the way that Liel Abada was, but I still think he played well.
I also made the point, Sean, in my piece that's up on the website today. You can have a read of that, guys, that it wasn't about revenge or redemption for September. It was basically about winning a football match, ticking your way down to a second successive title, and that's what they do best. I made the point last Monday that I was glad there was a wee bit of an edge to this game, and it would be mindful they would be mindful of the fact that this is the place where they lost, but they weren't fueled by the words revenge or redemption weren't mentioned at all by the management or the players after it. They just wanted to win another football match and go, and they went about their business in that sense, which I quite liked as well.
Aye, I mean the whole post match thing was quite interesting. I thought with Ange Tony. He never once mentioned that. As we said last week, he was never going to mention that it's revenge. It's right or wrong, because ultimately for him, if they play their football, they'll win anyway.
Yes.
Whether you give yourself that edge or not, but we both did say that it was good that was the kind of game that was following the League Cup. Obviously, Celtic's record after the League Cup, after League Cup wins, sorry, I should say, since 2016 hasn't been great. I would argue the context wasn't considered when given that stat. It was an interesting stat in isolation, but the context was that they still went on and won trebles after treble after it. So ultimately, it didn't really matter that they didn't win the game after the League Cup final. And then for a wee while at half-time, I'm sure there was notes being scribbled about the kind of jinx that was continuing when they went in 1-0 down. But ultimately, it get not only reversed, but emphatically reversed after it. I think, just before we move on from individuals, Tony, is there anybody else you mentioned? I know you said Maida there, and I agree with you. I think it was off it slightly. Still a hard worker, but it was one of those games. We both said we didn't think he would start, or we predicted that he wouldn't start, and I didn't think it would suit him. But it's not like I was up in arms when he started, because you know how much I back him up anyway. But I do agree with you. I think it was off it slightly.
Yeah, he was off it, to be fair. And I felt sorry for Kyogo. He was feeding off scraps, wasn't he? Just they got into the position where he was making those near post runs, and his work rate was good, but he just the final ball lacked no quality, to be fair, and also, but he was still alert enough to get Charles Dunn sent off. You know, when he would have gone through on goal otherwise. You know, but and I wouldn't. Obviously, it was a quieter game for him, but I still thought his work rate was excellent and his movement was terrific. It was just he wasn't able to be picked out or found, despite the fact that Celtic got down the wing and the flank a lot of times.
I think appearances are deceiving sometimes with Kyogo when there's a lack of touches and stuff, because he doesn't really get a lot of touches anyway in a game. Whether he scores twice or doesn't score, he still doesn't have that many touches usually. He didn't score, but he didn't even have a shot either. Yeah. So at first glance, you're thinking centre forward not having a shot, that's a poor game. But Ange Postecoglou rightly pointed out after it that it's his work rate and awareness that gets Charles Dunn sent off, and then his movement and keeping the likes of Alex Gogic, who did start at centre back after all, and Dunn obviously occupied while Celtic looked for gaps, was still key to the way that Celtic were playing. Now that probably still doesn't merit a 7 or an 8 out of 10, right enough, but I don't think he was proper poor, put it that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. I still think he put him and Maida put in a barrel load of work. It was just wasn't Maida's day yesterday, to be fair. And there's someone in the comments said he's allowed one. So he's allowed one bad day at the office. That's fair enough, yeah. Giving the lens blinds apart, they said that, yeah.
With Alistair Johnston, Tony, apart from his goal, we'll give him a goal.
He's getting a goal.
Then again, if we give him a goal, that means Moy gets that assist. So, apart from the goal, what did you make of him? Did you think he played well again? I know you talked him up in your ratings.
I thought he linked well when Abada came on, but I thought he got down the flank a lot, but I thought his delivery could have been better into the box, into the danger areas. But I thought he was very steady yesterday. I think I gave him a 7, which I thought was a fair result. I mean, great to see him open his account though, because he is getting the goal. And but I see he was more of a threat when Abada came on. But I still feel that because he got a lot of joy, especially down the right in the first half, and I just felt that sometimes the final ball wasn't executed properly. Call it nitpicking, call it what you like, but because he didn't have a lot to do defensively, did he?
No.
So, so if you've not got a lot to do defensively, then I'm looking for you to be a wee bit more productive when you've got that. When you're out wide and you're looking up to pick out guys in the middle or whatever. So that was all. But I mean, he was, as I say, I thought 7 was a a fair reflection on how he played.
I think he did well. Again, I think a 7 was probably accurate. I think there's still elements. I think you can see where he's learning to adapt in terms of maybe when to move inside and pass it, and when to maybe provide that kind of Ralston-esque type of overlap and cross. Right. I thought it was another positive performance. He's crossing. I think it was like half his crosses found the target, and crossing is always a weird stat, because sometimes it can be a really good ball and somebody just doesn't get on the end of it, or it could have been put into an area rather than to a man, so the success rate doesn't really tell you. But I do it. Sometimes it's the decision making for me, as I say, whether he should be looking to cross it or whether he should be looking to continue to play. Sometimes I think he's still learning when to make the right decision of the two. But overall, I think he had another good game. I was debating whether it might have been a game for Ralston to come back in and get some game time. But there's a lot of trust being shown in Alistair Johnston at the moment, and he's rising to it.
I look at that pinpoint cross you put in Kyogo's head at Hampden last week, so he can do it. It's in his arm, it's in, he's got it in his locker. So I was just looking for a wee bit more refinement when he got into those areas yesterday. And a couple of times that let him down. But and as you say, I think like everything else, I think he's adapted really well. He's learning the inverted fullback role as he's going along. But he's took to it well, but there are tweaks that I think he needs to do,
It's good to know that he listens to us, obviously, Tony, because we were sitting here and I was decrying the fact that nobody went over to back up Kyogo against Aberdeen. And in the 2 games since, he's offered Borna Barisic a square go. He's chinned Antonio Cholak, and then in his interview before the St Mirren game, specifically said, listen, if someone's giving our technical players jip, I'll be over to back them up and stuff. So he's obviously listening, Tony.
He is indeed, and he's got that bit about him, hasn't he? Having played ice hockey back home, so they're no strangers to getting involved in square goals and punch-ups and flare-ups. So he keeps that, as long as he keeps that under check, he'll be all right, Now, someone has brought it up in the comment section, Sean, and we are going to have a laugh about it. The meme of the manager laughing at Cameron Carter-Vickers for just looking up and sending a Ronald Koeman, Franz Beckenbauer type pass straight out the park with real aplomb, and Ange mouthing Cam, and he just bursts out laughing. It's like as if, because I don't know what Cameron Carter-Vickers has said to him, but I don't think Ange is buying his excuse, is he?
I was confused whether it was an attempted shot or whether it was a pass. I really don't know what it was doing. It was a weird one, but Ange's response is, well, it's already gone viral, but it will be used probably from now until the end of time, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's priceless, isn't it? It's and it just shows you, and I've touched upon this before. He has got a cracking sense of humour, Ange. So I don't know what. As I say, I'd love to hear what Cameron Carter-Vickers has said to him, because he's just giving it the you're at it, what I mean, type of thing. That that's not what we do here, kind of vibe, But I thought it was a brilliant moment in sport, and big up to the two of them. But I still, for the life of me, don't know what's he doing.
One of them.
Cam said, "I know," said Steve McGrory. So he's obviously. I know. Yeah, one of those ones, but yeah, excellent.
I think I was just looking up there. It's one of only 3 misplaced passes if we're counting it as a pass. I think it says 3. 93% pass success rate, and that was one of the ones that obviously went astray. Yeah, slightly.
By a long way, I think you'll find.
I honestly thought they might have counted that in the stats as one of the shots. To be honest, I didn't. I don't know what he was trying to do, but ultimately it didn't matter, and the supportive got a nice meme out of it. I think
exactly. Correct. Now, Sean, you wanted to touch on it before we finished.
Yep.
The Celtic women's team lost to Glasgow City yesterday, didn't they?
Yep.
They lost 1-0.
1-0. They fall 6 points behind them at the top. They are still a point ahead of Rangers women in third, but 6 points behind Glasgow City at the top. So they've got a better goal difference than both of them. I hasten to point out, but I'd imagine, Tony, that it will take a virtually flawless end to the season to have a title chance now, you'd imagine.
Yeah. How many games is there to go, Sean?
They've played 21. So try to think. There's 21. I'm not good with maths. 21 and there's 12 in the table. I can't think. I think what that would be. Is it 33 they would play then? So
yeah, so that'd be 12 left then. If they play each other 3 times.
I think so. So
Fair
aye.
enough.
So
But
they're 6 behind.
Yeah, so that's difficult task because Glasgow City are on course for an invincible league season, aren't they?
Well, they've won 19, drawn 2 from 21. Celtic have still got the best attack and the best defence though. Like statistically, they've scored the most, they've conceded the fewest. But again, the 2 losses are the difference. So
yeah, fair enough. Well, Sean, the bandwagon moves on to Hearts on Wednesday, doesn't it? We'll be previewing that tomorrow and on Wednesday. Pick a predicted 11 predictions and all that kind of stuff. But what is it? That's 11 to go, Sean, in the season, ticking down. It's getting close now, the business end of the season, as they say. So, but yeah, Celtic win to the Hearts game, double header against Hearts.
It is
Wednesday night in the league and then Scottish Cup on Sunday. So we'll look forward to that and we'll preview it on the show. I think there is a split after 2 rounds in women's football. Thank you for that.
Yep, Dunhallow pointing out rightly, that's the first that the Celtic women have lost in a good while. But he reckons Fran Alonso will turn it round. I don't even think there's anything to turn round. They're having a really good season. It's just that Glasgow City are having a better one slightly so far.
They're top of the table for a reason, Glasgow City, aren't they? Flawless season so far.
I'm going to, sorry, I meant to put this up earlier on just before you wrap it up, Tony. Seren Short had asked, said, I'm a stats man, is it true that 19 of the squad have scored this season? It is true, that is exactly right. It's 19 players have scored a goal. Yep. Yeah.
Alistair Johnson being the latest to add his name to that list.
Yep, so, that is counting him. That's counting him. So, yeah.
So who are we waiting on to score?
I don't know, actually, off the top of my head. There's a couple obviously that won't score now. Oliver Abelgard's left, that kind of player. But no,
Joe Hart, obviously.
Well, Joe Hart. By the way, Tony, I don't think he was a 7 yesterday. I don't think he was a 7.
Well, he came out a couple of times and clutched balls out there.
One thing to do, and he never done it. He went the right way though.
Well, he went the right way. That's a start. So I did say he had an unerring ability to dive the wrong way. Yeah. And someone put up a thing yesterday on Twitter saying, I think it's 12 or 13 penalties that have been taken against Joe Hart, and 12 out of 13 or whatever it is have been scored. The only one that's been missed was Liam Boyce. Is it Tynecastle?
It was young Callum McCauley. It does your TikTok. That was who put it up on Twitter.
Yes.
But that do you remember last week, the week before, we were talking about Joe Hart's penalties, and I looked it up, and I said, did he save Liam Boyce's penalty? Because it said that was the one that hadn't been scored. I just didn't remember that it had the post, because I couldn't remember him saving it, but it said that the penalty had been missed. But until I saw the clip, and then I remembered, he hit the post. That's right.
The post, yeah.
But it was young Callum that does our TikTok. Big up to Callum for that stuff. But you can read into it what you want, because I suppose most penalties are scored. But I mean, you've brought it up a few times that you're not happy with the way that he deals with penalties. But at least he dived the right way.
He dived the right way. So we're working on it bit by bit. Slowly. So.
By the way, while you were talking there, I'll tell you exactly who's not scored yet as an outfield player. Yuki Kobayashi, which is a wee bit unfair. He's only played twice. Yeah. Cameron Carter-Vickers, 32 games.
He hasn't scored now.
Alexandro Bernabe, Boston Lowell, he's only played once. Anthony Ralston, James McCarthy, Tomoki Iwata, Rocco Vata, and then obviously you've got the likes of Ideguchi and Abelgard, who won't score this season now anyway. But yeah, I doubt everybody will score in that list, put it that way, because I don't know. It depends on the game time. But 19 players isn't it to be sniffed at, Tony. That's sharing the burden, as I put it last year when I done the goal analysis, and I'll probably do it again near the end of this season.
Of course, it's excellent that goals are coming from all those players. Still want to see big Cameron Carter-Vickers get his name on the score sheet. Yeah, he weighed in with a couple yesterday. I think a couple of important ones to come from Cam, and that right, as the manager would say, Cam. What are you up to? But there you go. Well, as I say, we'll preview the Hearts game on Wednesday night. Celtic play them in the Scottish Premiership Wednesday night, and then in the Scottish Cup quarter-final at Tynecastle on Sunday. Stay tuned for that. We'll talk about them all. But what can I say? Thanks for your time, guys, today. Thanks for your comments. Always enjoy it. Another happy Monday. Celtic defeats St Mirren 5-1. 9 points clear. Goal difference again goes up by a couple. So it was ever thus. But we thank you. And if you haven't already, and we thank those that have, why don't you subscribe to the Celtic Way website and support top quality football journalism covering the club you love for only £2 for 2 months for unlimited access to everything that's written on the website. It's all for the click of a button, guys. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Thanks for your company today, and we also say thank you to SENECA. The Celtic Way morning briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group, and SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Sean, thanks very much for your contribution. See you again tomorrow.
Yep. Cheers, guys. Cheers, Tony.